Olá, boa tarde. Olá a todos, bem-vindos ao workshop. E nós estamos ao vivo. Vocês conseguem ver-me? Sim. Muito bem. Então, I should continue to speak only in Portuguese because this is for intermediate learners, but I will just start with a soft introduction in English. So, if you don't know, I am going to be analyzing a text today, and is the text that refers to the episode 38 of the Portuguese Lab Podcast. So, if you haven't got it yet, you can access the PDF with the text. You can also listen to the episode. And download the PDF with the transcript. I think I have... No, not yet. I don't have it there yet, but I will include the link to the episode so you can listen to it. We will be looking at the text now anyway, but you can access it later if you haven't heard it yet. And this is an intermediate text. It's about it's a short story about a trip to the island of Pico in the Azores, and we will be looking at some complex structures, some different verb tenses, and why we use them, or why I use them in that situation, that specific situation. So for those of you that had already read the text and listened to the episode, I would like you to tell me if there is any questions you have in particular, anything you would like me to focus on, anything that is not really that clear to you. The translation is also there, so that makes it a little bit easier. But if even with translation something is not really that clear, then just let me know. Muito bem. So also, before we get started, because oh my God, we have so much to talk about. It's grammar injection today. Before we get started, just let us all know who is here today, and just type in where you're from and how long you have been learning. That will give me more or less an idea, or not, depends, of your knowledge and what types of examples I can also give you while I'm talking about the text. See? Along the way, if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat window. You can see it if you're watching on YouTube. There's a chat window, you can type it there. And if I don't see it immediately, then I'll be going through the chat windows on and off, and I will see if there are any questions, and I will answer them. Muito bem. Então, so now I am going to share my screen with you. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we will look at the text and go step by step and see what we find there that is interesting to talk about. So here you go. You will not be able to see me now, but I will come back whenever it's needed. Muito bem, so here is the text. Like I mentioned before, if you haven't read it yet or listened to it yet, you can just access it on the Portuguese Lab Podcast. It's episode number 38. Muito bem. So we'll just start with the first sentence and see what we have here, and then we'll move from there. I'll just change colors so that it's not too confusing. Let's choose green. Just a second. Green. Muito bem. O ano passado fui aos Açores com grupo de amigos. So I'm not going too much into translation now, because not only are you already intermediate learners, but also because you have access to the translation. So if you have any doubts about translation, also, obviously, you can also ask me. I really don't understand what's the exact translation for a certain word, then I will explain it. But in general, the translation, you can access it in the PDF. Sorry, again, if you don't have it. Now I will only really focus on Portuguese sentences and talk about them as we go along. So just checking real quick who we have here. So we have Pennsylvania, Vietnam, studying from a year. Barcelona, Colombia. Oh, you guys speak Spanish. That's not fair for everybody else here. I'm kidding. Bélgica, muito bem. Libya, oh, that's interesting. Oh, you're living in Lisboa. It's really hot today, right? Like 35 or 36. Cape Town, South Africa. So, all around the world, that's really cool. Muito bem. Então, o ano passado fui aos Açores com um grupo de amigos. What do we have here that is interesting? Well, we have the verb, fui. If I ask you some questions and if you answer them, it's possible that I will only see these answers after a while because there's always a delay between what I'm saying and when you're watching it. So sometimes that can happen. So, fui, that's the verb eat, to go. And in this case, you are just identifying an event that happened in the past. It's done. You're giving information about what you did last year. So, went. In this case, we are using pretérito perfeito simples. If you don't know, I will identify it only as PPS. Pretérito perfeito simples is a past tense that refers to events that are done, over with, that happened, and that you use to identify. For example, you want to talk about the past, but you don't want to go into much detail. You just want to say what happened, what is over. This is the tense that you use. In this case, this is an irregular verb. So fui is not really following the rules, if you know the rules on how to conjugate this tense. So this is the most straightforward verb in the past that we have. PPS. With a group of friends. Muito bem. Now, the next sentence, let me make this a little bit smaller. Já tinha visitado algumas ilhas, mas nunca tinha ido à Ilha do Pico. So here we have another tense. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the chat window at the same time and I'm seeing Russia, Cascais, Venezuela, Tailândia. Bem-vindos, welcome everybody. So here we have a different verb tense, and if you haven't identified it yet, and just real quick, this sentence means that I had already visited some islands, but I had never gone to the island of Pico, so this specific island. Tinha visitado. So what we have here is a compound verb tense. It also refers to the past, but you use it to talk about an older past. So the first sentence has a verb in the past, refers to the action of going to the island. I went there. And before that, so this happened before, it's older, I had already visited some islands. So when you want to say that something in the past happened before another event in the past, usually it's something that you already mentioned before, then you use this verb tense. And this verb tense has a long name. It's called pretérito mais que perfeito composto. I'll write it down. Pretérito mais que perfeito composto. This is all indicative, okay? No subjunctives yet. Pretérito mais que perfeito composto. Every time you see a verb tense that has this word here, composto, means it has two verbs. So what happens here is that we have an auxiliary verb, that's the verb ter, and we have a past participle from another verb, which is the verb visitar. Every compound verb tenses that you have in indicative all have the auxiliary verb ter. What happens? The difference between them is that the conjugation of this auxiliary verb will have different tenses according to the different meanings that you want to express. So in this case, when you want to express that something happened in the past before another event, then you have to conjugate the verb ter in imperfeito. So here we have another verb tense. We will see also in a while what is imperfeito, but if you don't know it, imperfeito is also a tense that refers to the past, but that you don't use just to identify things that happened. You use it when you want to go into more detail about what happened in the past. But in this case, that's not the meaning that it has. You use imperfeito here. Here, just think of it as a rule. Imperfeito plus a past participle, I'll write it in Portuguese. Participio passado. When you use these two together, imperfeito of the auxiliary verb ter plus past participle of the main verb, then you are expressing something that happened in the past, previous to something already mentioned before that also happened in the past. So you have two events in the past. Isto é o passado, this is the past. You mentioned an event here, and this event is older. And this event that is older, this is the one. Pretérito mais que perfeito composto. How to build this past participle? That's pretty straightforward. So let's just pick this regular verb, visitar. Visitar. You drop the ending, visitado, and you add ado. And this ending will change according to verb group. So if you have a verb ending in er, for example, let's say comer, that's a typical one. Comer, comido. It's ending in er. Partir, to break or to leave. Partido. So these two have the same form, ending in ido. This is how you build the past participle. Past participle refers to something that is over. So when you use a past participle, it usually refers to something that is done over. Sim. So let me know in the meantime if you have any questions. If not, I will continue to move along. So I had already visited some islands, but again here, the same tense, because I'm still talking about that time that was previous to this one in the past. So again here, I use the same tense. Plus ir. I had gone. I never had gone. Team, let's continue. Muito bem. Just a second, sometimes windows get in the way. Muito bem. So, then I continue to say, como nós sabíamos que a montanha do Pico, vulcão inativo, era a montanha mais alta de Portugal, decidimos subi-la e ver a vista do topo da cratera. So this is a long sentence, but we'll see step by step what's happening here. So, como nós sabíamos, as we knew. This means we already knew that this mountain, an inactive volcano, was the highest mountain in Portugal. So we have a verb here as well, sabíamos. And this tense here is again the one we used up here in the auxiliary verb ter. This is imperfeito. imperfeito. We are talking about the past, but we are not using the simple past. We are not using PPS in this situation, because this one expresses something that was going on for a longer period of time in the past. You don't want to just identify something that was over, a fact that an event that happened and it was done. You are expressing that by that time, if you look back to the past and you imagine you are reliving it, during that whole period in the past, we knew this. So sometimes some people refer to this tense as the present of the past. Imagine something is going on in the past and you are reliving it again, and it's something that takes a longer period of time. And this is actually an event that didn't end. You didn't stop knowing this. Okay, so that is why you don't use the simple past that refers to finished events. Imperfeito. As we knew. So I will not go too much now into conjugations because that would be too much. If you're interested, I don't know if you have got it already, but you can find at the Portuguese Lab site, www.portugueselab.com, you can find a chart with all verb conjugations. Just search in the category of free stuff. There's a verb chart there. And then you can, if you don't know already, you can know how to conjugate all these tenses I'm talking about here. Important here is to know when to use them. We knew that it was the highest mountain in Portugal. We knew that it was. Era. Again, here we have imperfeito. This is imperfeito of the verb to be, ser. It didn't stop being the highest mountain, okay, by that time in the past, while this story is going on, it was and it continued to be the highest mountain. So you cannot say it's no longer the highest mountain. It's not a finished event. Again, you use imperfeito in this situation. We decided to go up the mountain and watch the view from the top. Okay, so decidimos. We decided. What do you think in this case? Is it a finished event? Is it something that was going on, that you want to express that it was going on throughout the story, that you don't know if it ended or not? No, it's a finished event. You made the decision, it's done. So again here, PPS, the simple past. Okay, we decided to go up the mountain. So this la here refers to the mountain. This is the direct complement in this case. So you already mentioned mountain, before in your speech or in your dialogue. You don't want to always repeat the same, in this case, in the same noun again, over and over again. We knew that the mountain was high. We decided to climb the mountain, always the mountain, the mountain. So once it has been mentioned before, you can drop it and substitute it with the respective direct complement. In this case, it's feminine. So let's look at this construction here. Decidimos. We decided to climb. So decidir, to do something, decide to do something, uses an infinitive. I decided to eat, I decided to drink. So eu decidi comer, eu decidi beber, you use it with an infinitive. In this case, when you have a direct complement after a verb ending in er, you drop the er and you add l to the pronoun. Subila. If you want to know more about this, there is a specific workshop only on complements, direct complements and indirect complements. You can watch it and see all the rules. Why? In this case, you already know why, but there are other exceptions as well. If you didn't have this case here of having er at the end of the verb, for example, I see the mountain. Eu vejo a. So the regular pronoun would be a. In this case, because it ends in R, then you add L. Okay, so I already see a question here on the chat window that I think I answered in the meantime. Again, the delay sometimes has this problem. But the question is, why subir and not subir? Exactly because of this. So this would be actually an infinitive, but because it has a pronoun after it, then you have to drop the R and add L. See? Again, just go ahead and watch that, I don't know how many hours long workshop on complements, and you will understand a little bit more about this. Muito bem, carrying on. Nos primeiros dias na ilha, passeámos ao longo da costa, mergulhando no mar. So let's just look at this first part here. Let me make this bigger. Nos primeiros dias, so during the first days in the island, we strolled or we walked along the coast. Passeámos. Passeámos, that's from the verb passear, to walk or to stroll. And in this case, it's also in the simple past, PPS. I am giving you kind of a list of events that happened. We walked along the coast. That's it. Mergulhando no mar. So who knows what this is here? What is this? What type of tense? What is mergulhando? While you think about it, I will tell you why we are using it here. So this tense is not really that common in European Portuguese. You see it more, for example, in this type of text, literature, or in some specific regions in Portugal use this tense a lot also. But standard language, you don't hear it that much. So because this is a text and written, then it's more common that you find something like this. And Donovan says gerunds. That is correct. So this is called gerúndio. Gerúndio. And gerúndio, it has different uses, but in general, it gives you an idea of something that is going on. Happens either at the same time as something else, or in this case, is adding an idea of something that was happening at the same time as something else. So we walked along the coast, and during that period of time, we dove in the sea here and there. We were diving along the way, and gerúndio has a kind of a similar way to build as past participle that we saw a while ago. Let's see this verb here, to dive. Mergulhar. You drop the ending and you add ando. And if you have a verb ending in a R, let's say comer. Why not? Comer. Comendo. Partir. Partindo. So always has the same vowel here, so it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, there are many different uses you can have with gerúndio, and it usually emphasizes something that was going on. And in this type of sentence, you can see it a lot because it's like a complement to what happened. This is what happened. We strolled along the coast, doing this at the same time. What could you also use, especially when speaking, instead of gerúndio? Like I said, some regions of Portugal use this, but let's just consider that we are talking about standard language. What would we use instead of gerúndio, mergulhando? What would we say? This would be the same as, in this case, a mergulhar. So these are, they have the same meaning, either gerúndio or the compound structure, a plus infinitive. That's what you would say if you were speaking. You would say, passeamos ao longo da costa a mergulhar no mar, sempre que, every time that, da, 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 da. Sim, muito bem. That is correct, Donovan. I can see you're an expert already. So, moving on here. A água era amena. So the water was nice in terms of temperature. It was clear. You could watch a variety, enormous variety of fish. So I am describing the past in this sentence. And when we are describing the past, so we are transporting ourselves to the past, imagining we are reliving it. So every time you have this idea of describing the past and reliving it, then the tenses will be again imperfeito. The one that does not refer to finished events, the one that refers to events that were going on for a longer period of time in the past. When you are making descriptions of the past, and you can also see that here. Podia, again, imperfeito. Here we have another pronoun. Podia-se observar. So this structure is poder plus infinitive. That means one is able to do something. Eu posso falar inglês. I can speak English. Or eu posso comprar carro porque tenho dinheiro. I can buy a car because I have money. So it's a possibility, something I can do. You conjugate this verb plus infinitive, but we have an extra se here. What is this se? Who can tell me what's this se? Is it also a direct complement like I said earlier, or what is it? Who is the subject in the sentence? Who could observe the fish? Who could do this? We don't know, right? No one in particular. It's something that one could do. So this is an impersonal pronoun. And when you include it in the sentence, it means that, so Donovan says it's reflexive. It's not really reflexive. It looks like it's reflexive, but it's not. If you have a verb with a reflexive verb, it looks exactly like this, but it's not. So let's see. The difference between a reflexive verb and, in this case, an impersonal se. Let's say, I wash myself. Eu lavo-me. So this is a reflexive verb. I am doing this to myself. I am washing myself. Every time you have, for example, in a sentence in English, you have myself, yourself, himself, then you have a reflexive pronoun. But if I want to say one washes oneself every morning, in English it sounds a bit strange, but just follow this example. One washes oneself every morning. Sorry. Get this out of the way. Lava-se. So this is not reflexive. Actually, in this first example, let me just say, he washes himself so that we have the same pronoun. He washes himself. Ele lava-se. This is a reflexive pronoun, so it refers to ele. In this sentence with a reflexive pronoun, you have a verb. Sorry, you have a subject. Ele. Lava-se. Lava-se is not a good example now for the example I wanted to give you, but let's say em Portugal, let's say take a shower. Sounds more natural. Toma-se duche, I don't know, just make something up. À noite. In Portugal, one takes a shower at night. So you see this se here, it doesn't refer to any subject. There is no subject in the sentence. Em Portugal is a place, it's not the subject. So this se refers to oneself. So people in general, or one takes a shower at night, refers to a generic event that doesn't refer to anyone in particular. And this pronoun is always the same when you're using it as an impersonal se. Let me delete this. Does this make sense? They look the same. A pronoun will always be connected to the verb the same way, with a hyphen after the verb in most situations, but the meaning is different. This, in this case, refers to no one in particular. This action here refers to no one in particular. If you look at the sentence again, a água era amena, clara e podia-se observar this and that. So, podia-se observar is one could watch. But I'm not saying that I could watch or he could watch. In this case, it's an impersonal pronoun. Sim? Muito bem. So again, we will have the same situation here, describing events in the past. Then we did this and that and that. In this case, we walked along the walls of the ancient. Again, here PPS. So you're just giving a list of events that happened and you want to express that they're done. So this is what you did. Again, here the same thing. We took many pictures. PPS. It's finished. We didn't continue to take pictures throughout the entire trip. That's not what I want to express. I don't want to go into much detail what was happening while we took the pictures. So we are not going to switch here to imperfect. I'm just giving you a list of things we did. And we actually did, because this is a true story. So, no dia em que fomos de carro até à casa da montanha, the day we went by car. Fomos. Again, it's an event that is done. PPS. We went by car. It's a fact. Where one begins climbing on foot. So again here, se. Again here, impersonal pronoun. Onde se inicia. In this case, it's placed before the verb because we have onde. We have a relative pronoun here, onde. But in most cases, like I said, it will be placed after the verb. Let's just say this is a sentence that starts like this. Na casa da montanha, inicia-se a subida. One starts climbing here, na casa da montanha. Okay? So, where one starts climbing, when we got there, the day was good or great. The day was great. Estava. So now you have a complement here that describes how the weather was. And this falls into the category of describing the past. So every time you're talking about the weather in the past, just think of it as always imperfeito. It's not always the case, but talking about what you did yesterday and then just include the weather, usually it's going to be imperfeito as well. So consider it as describing the past. So you continue to describe the temperature, the weather in general, and again, you continue to use imperfeito. You don't want to talk about finished events. You are transporting yourself to the past and imagining what was going on during that period of time, how the weather was. You're making a description here. Again, imperfeito. Temperatura estava amena e o céu estava azul. Again, imperfeito. Imperfeito. See? So good so far? So the day was lovely when we got there. Let's move on to the second part. Oops. Let's take this out of the way. So when we got to the house where you start climbing, na casa da montanha, olharam-nos de alto a baixo e perguntaram-nos se não tínhamos calçado mais apropriado. So they looked us from top to bottom and they asked us if we didn't have more appropriate shoes. Olharam-nos. So in terms of verb tenses, this is events. This is what happened. They looked at us, over. They asked us, and then it was over. They didn't keep on asking. PPS, so simple past. Perguntaram, they asked, simple past. These pronouns here, they looked at us, so we don't use a preposition in this case, and they asked us. Wait a second. This is a direct complement. We could also substitute this with a pronoun, with a preposition. Olharam para nós. Olharam para nós. They looked at us. But olharam para nós. That's also pretty common. So these two situations you can choose. They're interchangeable. But you can indeed transform, in this case, the direct object, us, into a pronoun, nos. The difference here is just this accent. Nós, we, nos, us. Nós, nos. They looked at us, nos. And they asked us the same thing again. Perguntaram-nos if não tínhamos calçado apropriado. Is this simple past again? No. Imperfeito. This is where it gets tricky sometimes to understand when to use one, when to use the other between these two tenses in the past. But look at the situation. So I'm giving you two facts. They looked at us, they asked us this. And they asked if during that time, if we didn't have appropriate shoes. So tínhamos is imperfeito. Because if we had appropriate shoes, we would have them for a long period of time. We wouldn't have stopped having them. So in this case, it's imperfeito. It's not a done event. I hope this makes sense. Again here, an event that was over. They warned us. They didn't keep on warning. They warned us, that's it. Again, nos. Let me just see. We have a question here. Is there always an accent over nós or not? These are two different words. Nós, nos. Nós, let's say, nós lavamos-nos. We wash ourselves. Nós, that's us. That's the subject of the sentence. Nos, in this case, it's a reflexive pronoun, which will look the same as the direct complement pronoun. But these are two different things. So nós, we, always with accent. And us, we wash ourselves, or they see us, nos. Nós, nos. One has accent, the other not. Nós, nos. Muito bem. So, you are ready now for some subjunctive. The time has come. Now it's when you leave. So, somehow I closed the window. They warned us that embora, embora. You see embora, then you need subjunctive. If you don't know what subjunctive is, no one knows, so don't worry. In general terms, you can refer to subjunctive as a group of verb tenses that refer to events that are not facts, that can be wishes or possibilities in the future or possibilities that didn't happen in the past. So think of it like this. And here you have one of the situations. Most of the time, subjunctive will happen after certain expressions or conjunctions, like in this case. So there's a huge list of possibilities where you have to use subjunctive. Consider now, just for this example, that embora, although, uses subjunctive. And that's this verb here. That's the verb estar. Although the weather was good at that moment, it was going to change. So estivesse. Subjunctive has different tenses. You have 3 tenses and then 3 compound tenses, so 6 in general. You have the present, presente, imperfeito, futuro. Futuro. So you could think of, okay, one is for the present, one is for the future, one is for the past. But it's not as clear as that. Sometimes the use of imperfeito expresses that the event is more improbable. So there is a higher doubt on whether that event will happen or not. And sometimes that's the difference between using presente and imperfeito and not exactly something that happened in the past. But let's just see in this case here why we are using this one. Let me just answer a quick question here just about this nós topic. You wrote para nós. How does this translate? To us. Para nós. Depends on context. In this sentence, it was they looked us, and I wrote here, you could also substitute this with they looked at us. So in this case, you would translate as at us, to us. They bought a ticket to us. Okay, I'm just translating roughly the Portuguese sentence. Eles compraram, they bought us tickets. Eles compraram bilhetes para nós. Eles compraram bilhetes para nós. They bought us tickets. So you see, translation depends on context. In this case, you could also substitute this with a direct complement. In this case, it's indirect complement. Eles compraram-nos bilhetes. Okay, I hope this answers your question. So back to subjunctive. What we have here, estivesse, it's imperfeito. Então é conjuntivo, it's subjunctive, conjuntivo imperfeito. Imperfeito. And imperfeito, like I said, in subjunctive can actually refer to the past or express a higher improbability regarding a certain event. In this case, we use here imperfeito because it refers to the past. So we have embora, and if we have a sentence with embora in the present, then we would use conjuntivo presente here. But we are talking about the past, so we use conjuntivo imperfeito. And the only reason why you have it here is because you have embora. That's what's going to happen in most cases. You have a certain expression, certain word that demands conjuntivo. Let me just give you an example with a sentence in presente. Let's do the same sentence, but now in present. I imagine I'm talking to you right now and I say, although the weather is good now, it's going to change. Embora o tempo esteja bom, it's going to change. So here you have again subjunctive, but in this case present, because I'm talking about the present. Então aqui é conjuntivo presente. If you want to know more about the conjugations, like I said, you can download for free a chart with all the conjugations at the website. Muito bem. Let me know if you have any questions in the meantime. So I already covered why we use PPS in some cases, why we use imperfeito in some cases. So I'm not going through all the verbs in that situation. Again, here they asked us. So it's a finished event, PPS. They asked us. Are you sure they asked us? É que não podem sair do caminho marcado. You can't leave the path. É que, as you probably know, you hear this a lot in open questions. Como é que te chamas? Onde é que é o parque? Quanto é que custa o carro? É que is an expression for emphasis. In this case, it's like in English, it's that you can't leave the path, and that's a big problem. So it's usually also at the beginning of sentences to express, emphasize what you're saying. I could just say, you can't leave the path, but I want to emphasize. I mean, you really can't leave the path. So that's what this does, é que, the beginning of sentences. So when they are speaking direct speech, it's the present. You can get stuck because of the fog. Podem ficar presos por causa do nevoeiro. Se, and here it is subjunctive again. Se, if we have to call an helicopter. Se tivermos de chamar. So here you have a verb structure. Ter de plus infinitive. To have to do something. Okay, so we have de and infinitive. That never changes. But the auxiliary verb, you can conjugate in all tenses, depending on the situation. If you're speaking in the present, if you're speaking in the past. In this case, you are using conjuntivo as well, because you have se, if. And se is going to use, in this case, the future. She's talking in direct speech, okay? So at the moment when she is speaking, she's talking about the future. If we have to call in the future a helicopter, it's going to cost you. It's over 200 euros. So because she's talking about the future, a possibility that is probable in the future, then you have to use the future. And because you have se, if, you have to use subjunctive. So what we have here, tivermos, is conjuntivo futuro. So what you have to pay attention to when you are unsure whether you have to use indicative or subjunctive, usually just, there's usually a trigger somewhere in the sentence. Embora, although, if, se, and then you have to think, is this being said in the present about the present? Is this referring to an event that might happen in the future? Is this referring to the past? And then you choose the verb accordingly. So if we have to call, e são vocês que pagam, and then you pay. Nós sentíamos-nos confiantes. So we are back to the, in this case, reflexive pronoun here. So reflexive pronouns, indirect complements, direct complements, in most cases they look the same. This is a reflexive pronoun because it's we felt ourselves confident. So that's how you would say it in Portuguese. Sentir-se. Sentir-se something, for example, to feel nervous, sentir-se nervoso. This is always a reflexive verb. What you have to pay attention here, so again, we have nós, that's the subject, and nos, that's us. We felt, or in this case, we felt ourselves confident. That when you conjugate the first person plural, you know that the conjugation, whatever the conjugation is, present or past, it ends with S. Let's do the sentence in the past as it is. Nós sentíamos. Nós sentíamos. We felt warmth. We felt cold. So in this case, it would not be reflexive. So the normal or the regular conjugation in this case would be S. Nós sentíamos calor. We felt hot or warm. But because you have a pronoun here, a reflexive pronoun, then the S drops. Nós sentíamos confiantes. That's going to happen every time you have a pronoun connected with a hyphen, with a verb conjugated in the first person plural. Sim? Muito bem, então este é reflexivo. Reflexivo. I know sometimes in English it doesn't make so much sense because the reflexive verbs are not the same. Sometimes like this one. Or remember. I remember myself to do something. So, nós sentíamos-nos confiantes e afirmamos estar conscientes do perigo. So if you look again at this sentence, we felt confident. Nós sentíamos-nos. This verb here is imperfeito because it expresses that during that period of time you were feeling confident or we were feeling confident. But then we stated, and this is a fact, it only takes a few seconds to state something and it was over. So we stated back to PPS. Okay, so these two events here, one takes longer and it was going on throughout the whole event. And this was just something that started and then finished and it was over. So again, you switch here again to PPS, the simple past. So we were aware of the danger. We were not at all. We thought we were. Também nos deram número de telefone. They also gave us. This is a fact, done. They gave us, it was given. So here, PPS, simple past. They gave us. Nos now is before the verb because you have também. So all these pronouns that you have in most cases that we've seen so far after the verb connected with hyphen will be placed before the verb in certain situations. So there are a series of adverbs that request that this pronoun is placed before the verb. For example, também, ainda, já, não, very important. Every time you have a negative sentence, this pronoun, whoop, goes before the verb. Open questions. Did they give you? What did they give you? O que é que eles vos deram? What did they give you? So open questions. There's a series of situations, this is one of them, where you have to put this pronoun or any pronoun connected to the verb before the verb. And then the hyphen is gone. So they gave us a phone number. They usually have this GPS little thingy that you can take with you, but it was not working. That's how it is. It was not working. So if we got lost, they would never find us. O interessante é que, again, here, emphasis. Os telemóveis só teriam rede no topo da montanha. The mobile phones would only have a connection at the top of the mountain. Só teriam. They would. So every time in English that you use they would or I would, that's conditional. Condicional. Condicional. So the condition here is that you would have to get to the top of the mountain, otherwise you would not have a connection. For example, conditional also appears a lot in sentences with se. Se tivesse dinheiro, compraria uma casa. If I had money, I would buy a house. So here would, again, condicional. Condicional. So the condition is if I had money. And if you remember, I said that when you have if, you have subjunctive, and that's what you have here. If I had money, I would buy a house. Imagine I'm saying this in the present. If I had money, I would buy a house. This is conjuntivo imperfeito. Conjuntivo imperfeito. So the one that refers to the past. But I'm speaking in the present, I'm not speaking in the past. I also said that conjuntivo imperfeito is used to talk about events that are very improbable. So when I use, in this case, imperfeito, means I don't really believe I'm going to have that money. I don't have it and I'm not going to have it. So it's really improbable. In that case, imperfeito. If I am almost sure, or I don't know if I will or not, it's like 50-50, because if, it's always, you're never sure if you're using if. If I have money, I will buy a house. So it's not really improbable, you just don't know, you don't know for sure. Se tiver dinheiro, compro uma casa. If I have money, I buy a house. Because I don't want to express that it's something really improbable, I still continue to use conjuntivo. There's no other way. It's se. But I use futuro in this case. So when I use futuro in this case, it doesn't mean that it's so improbable. So I honestly don't know if I will or will not have money. If I use imperfeito, it means, if only I had money. But I don't, and I will most likely not have. So like I said, sometimes the difference between using imperfeito or another tense in conjuntivo doesn't have to do with whether it's in the past or the future or in the present. It also has to do with expressing really improbability. And imperfeito expresses that. Subjunctive is always about something that you're not sure will happen. But with conjuntivo imperfeito, it emphasizes the fact that it's probably not going to happen. Okay, so that's about condicional. Condicional, it's something that we don't use that much when speaking. So you also see it more in writing. What we usually substitute when speaking, instead of using condicional, we use imperfeito. So the tense that refers to these events in the past that go on for a longer period of time and so on, that's what we usually use when speaking instead of condicional. It sounds a bit too formal, condicional, when you're speaking, so we would just say, o interessante é que os telemóveis só tinham, using imperfeito, só tinham rede no topo da montanha. If you use it when speaking, that's also okay. It just sounds really good, but not really necessary. Again, we continue here with conditional. So it would be important to get there. Condicional. It would be important to reach the top. Seria, condicional, seria importante conseguir lá chegar. To be able to get there. In case of need. Em caso de necessidade. Muito bem. Okay, so good so far? Not asleep yet? So now, while we go up the mountain, everything goes wrong. The weather starts to change. A caminhada começou bem. It's a fact, PPS. Caminhada começou bem. A ver os túneis. So, watching the tunnels. The lava tunnels. A ver, we could also use here gerúndio, as you know. So we were walking up and at the same time we were watching the tunnels. Vendo. You could use gerúndio here. It's a little bit more, sounds a little bit more like literature, but you could. So this would have the same meaning. Passou por nós caminheiro. A hiker went by us. That's a fact. Passou, PPS. Going down. Descendo. You could. It would sound a bit too much now. Too much gerúndio. But you could. Olhou para nós. Olhou para nós. What could you do here? Olhou-nos. You could transform this in the pronoun we have seen before. So this would also be similar. Como se, as if, make this a bit smaller. Como se fôssemos loucos. As if we were crazy. Here we have another expression that uses subjunctive. As if, como se. As if he acts as if he were a millionaire. He dresses as if she looked good, for example. So, como se, and then, in this case, there's no really much options. Conjuntivo imperfeito. That's what you use always after como se, as if. Conjuntivo imperfeito. Halfway through the weather changed. Tempo mudou. It's a fact. It was not changing, so by the time we got to halfway, it changed. It's a fact. So, PPS. Nevoeiro veloz, cerrado e gelado começou a cortar-nos o caminho. So I'm just giving a lot of adjectives here to describe the fog. It started to. Começou a cortar. To start to do something. Começar plus a plus infinitive. I started learning Portuguese yesterday. Eu comecei a estudar ontem. I started to learn yesterday. Another one of those one of the long list of verb structures that work like this. Por diversas vezes tivemos de esperar. Several times we had to wait. Also a fact, PPS. Before we could put a step in front of the next, basically. Antes de, before. This is followed by a verb. In this case, is poder. Is another structure, poder plus infinitive. So again, like we've seen before, to be able to do something. Eu posso comprar carro. I can buy a car. Okay, posso comprar. So we always have this verb as an auxiliary verb, poder, and then infinitive here. In this case, put. But because we have antes de before, this expression, with this expression, you have two options. You either use infinitivo impessoal or infinitivo pessoal. So what is this actually? What is this infinitive impessoal or infinitive pessoal? There are several expressions that usually are before one of these two options here. And infinitive impessoal, so that means it's impersonal. It's exactly the same as the infinitive. That's what we have here. Antes de poder. Poder is the infinitive. Infinitive pessoal, what is that? It's when, so when you use the impersonal infinitive, so the general infinitive, what you say is that we had to wait a few minutes before being able to put a foot in front of the other. This means, in general, I'm not specifying who could put or not a foot in front of the other. Okay, I know it refers to us that were going up the hill or the mountain. But this verb is not specifying. It's just saying that before someone, doesn't matter who, could put a foot in front of the other. But if I want to specify that this action really refers to us, then I use this one. So you can always use both. But if you want for some reason specify that, wait, I'm not just saying anybody, I'm really referring to this specific person or this specific group of people. So what you would have if you would use infinitive pessoal antes de podermos. So this ending here would identify us. And this conjugation for infinitive pessoal is actually pretty simple. So it always starts with the infinitive. That's why it's called infinitive pessoal. It's an infinitive, and then you just add some endings, but not to all. Let's just say, let's try to do this one, poder. Eu poder. Imagine I want to specify it before I can put one foot in front of the other. Antes de poder. Okay, it looks exactly like the infinitive. So what's the difference here? If I want, in this case, to express that it's really me, then I can include the pronoun here. Antes de eu poder. Because in this case, the conjugation looks exactly the same like the infinitive. So you can add the personal pronoun to emphasize who you are talking about. Tu poderes. In this case, we have an ending, so you don't have to include the personal pronoun. It's clear who you're talking about. Ele poder looks like the infinitive again, so if you want, you can include the personal pronoun to express that it's not just anyone that can't put a foot in front of the other, it's he, specifically, ele. Nós podermos. Again, this one specifies who you're talking about. Vocês, eles, elas poderem. Again, here the ending specifies. So this infinitive pessoal, you can always have, instead of it, you can always have the just normal infinitive. But if you want to emphasize for some reason that is, I'm not just talking about anyone in general, it's this specific person, then you switch to the personal infinitive. And this you will use after certain expressions, like, for example, antes de. The same thing would happen with the expression after. Depois de. That's really what it is. If you don't feel like learning a new conjugation, just use regular infinitive. Muito bem. A situação piorou. Situation got worse. It's a fact. VPS. The rain came, effect, PPS. Quando chegamos à cratera, eu ia de gatas. When we arrived, so to the crater, I was on, how do you say it in English? Crawling. Yes, that's true. So we have quando. We are talking about the past and we are using quando. So two things happen in the past. This is the fact, PPS. We got there. And when we got there, I was like this. Then imperfeito. I was not only crawling up when we got there. So that was something that was going on already when we got there. Imagine this as being a longer event. So this is me crawling here. La 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 la, going all the way up. Okay, not okay, you get the idea. All the way up, and then something interrupts my crawling. That is the fact that we got there. So when the finished event comes, then we switch to PPS. It was over. While this was going on, then imperfeito. And usually you see this sentence with these two verbs together when you see quando. You could also start with, I was crawling when we got there. So something was going on and then the finished event stopped it. So you have both tenses in the same sentence. Chegamos, that's a finished event. We got there, PPS. Oh, this is doubled? Yes, it's doubled. I was thinking, I already got to the top. Oops, desculpem. So, at the top, não vimos a bela vista do topo. We didn't see the view. That's a fact. Again, PPS. Because it wasn't possible to see anything. Was it a finished event? It was impossible, but then it was possible again. No, it was always impossible during that whole time we were up there. So again, you cannot consider this as being done at the time. No, it was still going on. So again, here you switch to imperfeito. So we couldn't see anything, but I remember, eu lembro-me. Lembrar-se, to remember is reflexive. Lembrar-se. I remember that the crater looked to me. Parecer, to look like something. Sorry, there's an missing. Parecer me. It looks to me like something. In this case, the pronoun is before the verb because we have que. It looked to me like, another planet. And again here, it looked to me like something. You use imperfeito. Because when I am saying that it looked like, it continued to look like that. It just didn't look like it and then it was over. It was not a finished event. Again, you use imperfeito. Até hoje ninguém conseguiu descer o pico tão rápido como nós. Get down as fast as we did. Conseguir, to be able to do something. Conseguir plus infinitive. Here, it's a fact. No one has done it. PPS, simple past. Now, there's also an interesting structure here. I almost fell several times. Ia caindo. Who knows what this is? We have two verbs here. And what is this structure and what does it tell us? So while you think about it, I can tell you that we have two verbs here. Ir, conjugated in imperfeito. And then, if you remember, we have here gerúndio. Ir plus gerúndio. Ir is the auxiliary verb. And as any auxiliary verb, you can always conjugate it in all tenses, all possible tenses, depending on what you want to express. In this case, I am using imperfeito because I'm talking about the past and because I almost fell several times. So it was something that kept on happening. It wasn't done. It was not only one event. It kept on repeating. So what I express when I use this structure is I almost, and then main verb in gerúndio. I'll give you, this means I almost fell. Let me give you another example. And because it's something that almost happened, so in the past, this structure you are going to use imperfeito. So to have this meaning, imperfeito is what you need. Eu ia perdendo o comboio. So this is the verb perder. To miss, in this case, I almost missed the train. Eles iam ficando sem carro. They almost lost their car. Ficar sem is to lose. Also here, ficar conjugated in gerúndio. So they almost lost their car because they were driving so fast, almost had an accident. You can also say that. Tu almost had an accident. Tu ias tendo acidente. Almost had it. Tu ias tendo acidente, but you didn't. Okay, this is almost. Also, if you're walking and you stumble and you almost fall, then usually you can say, oops, ia caindo. I almost fell. So with gerúndio, sometimes you can also build some interesting structures. Like this one. So I almost fell several times. Mas, por incrível que pareça, só caí a entrar para o carro. Quando já estava em terreno estável. When I was already on stable ground. De volta à base da Ilha do Pico, o dia estava lindo. So again, I'm describing the weather. Imperfeito. The day was lovely. One could not see the mountain. A montanha não se via. This was not a finished event. One could not see it at all during the whole time in the past while I'm talking about this. When I mentioned this event, it was not over. It was still going on. So imperfeito. And this impersonal pronoun again here because one could not see. I'm not specifically mentioning any one in particular. One could not see. It's placed before the verb because you have não. One could not see the mountain. No dia seguinte, ninguém se conseguia mexer. Okay, similar situation here. No one could move. When I say this, it doesn't mean that then we could move. No, this was, I want to express that this lasted a long period of time in the past. No one could move for a long period of time. So, imperfeito. This structure here, to be able to move oneself. Conseguir mexer-se. No one always uses the third person. So in this case, the reflexive is the same as the third person. No one could move oneself. Again, here, it's before the verb because you have ninguém, no one. No one also needs the pronoun before the verb. Also, if you had someone, alguém. So there's a big list of words that make you put the pronoun before the verb. Tínhamos de descer as escadas sentados. We had to go downstairs sitting. This is something that every time that there were stairs, we had to do this. So it was not just a finished event. A one-time finished event was something that kept on happening. Again, imperfeito. Por isso, passamos o resto do tempo a observar o mar. So we spent the rest of the time. This I want to express as a finished event. This is what we did. This was it. PPS again, simple past. Foram, there's an A missing. Foram umas belas férias. The holiday, the vacation, it was wonderful. It's a fact. It's done. It's over. PPS. Foram umas belas férias na Ilha do Pico. And that's it, people. Isto é tudo. So I want to know, for those of you who are still here, who has any questions about this? I know you can always come back and watch this later again, but let me just see how I can take this screen away. Okay. Hola. So I hope this was useful. Obviously, this is a lot, but it's supposed that I hope that you already have some knowledge, so this is not completely foreign to you. It's just for you to actually pay attention to specific examples and consciously think, okay, this is why I'm using this here. This is why this is built like this. Maybe you also learn some new expressions and some new structures, some new ways of saying specific stuff. So I hope this was useful. And if you have any questions in the meantime, you just look at this again, watch this again, and you think, oh, I completely forgot to ask this. Just either leave a message here in this video, or just send an email. Just go to the website and send an email, and I will gladly answer. Muito obrigada. I hope to see you next time. Also comment if you think this was useful, or if you need more of this or more of something else. If it's too hard, just give me some feedback so I can then think of something more appropriate for next time, or just continue to do stuff like this if you enjoy it. Muito bem. Então, até a próxima. Tchau, tchau.